Hey everyone, and welcome to Something Awesome. Today, we got a show for you today, don't we?
Oh, it's a show.
It's gonna be a show.
The show before the show is what's the best part. But let's keep rolling. Yes,
Right.
We got a show today, sir.
Yeah, so if you saw our last episode, because I don't know which one's going up first, but one of us interviewed one of us.
Yeah.
And today, in this episode, I am interviewing you. So I don't know if this is gonna be the first or second episode, but we're interviewing each other.
All right,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mike brought this up to me and I thought it was a fantastic idea. He gave me context, unlike when I give him an idea without any context. And that is that we're going to talk about video games, but about video games, like how we got into video games, like our history with video games, like our first console, things like that. Basically, kind of like a background. So I'm basically interviewing Mike today.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of like a nice trade-off.
Which would be fun.
Which would be fun. Yeah, exactly. Because like I think in my personal podcast, like I did interview you, and I interviewed other friends.
Yeah.
And basically just to like get to know each other. It was basically me trying to do something during the pandemic.
Right.
Because we're all creatives here. And,
Try to be.
Yeah. More time to learn more about you growing up, because like we did kind of talk about it a little bit in other episodes,
right? But this is going to be like super centralized.
Video games centric,
the my history of video games,
which really like the only thing I know is like you were a Sega person, then PlayStation Xbox.
Oh, it goes way deeper.
But I know it goes deeper than that. It definitely goes deeper.
That's what we're here for today.
But yeah, exactly. So yeah, with that being said, like video games, like how did you even start off with like wanting to play video games? Like was that your first love, video games, or like any other kind of medium?
It was probably music, but video games was pretty quick after that.
Which I think also kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Right. Yeah. It's funny because like we're gonna talk about a lot of fun stuff today with my history in video gaming, and the first thing we're gonna talk about is kind of a fun thing. My very first memory of video games is me being 4 years old. And it's weird because like,
how do you remember it from?
So that's what I'm saying, right? It's like a lot of people don't remember stuff from that young. And if they do, it's like flashes. But the more that I've kind of recounted the story in my head, and I also called the pertinent people involved and talked to them and see if they remembered the story as well. And they did. So I was like, okay, this is not just me like projecting or something. This really did happen. So I was 4 years old, and we were living in an apartment complex, and we were on the bottom floor of an apartment complex, and we were in the middle. And there was a family that lived next to us. So there was a kid who was probably, I want to say like middle school aged, maybe 14, like somewhere between 11 and 14. But I'm 4 years old, so anybody older than me is like, oh my God, that person's so old, right?
You're right.
So, and growing up there, living in that apartment complex, like we were friendly with the families in there because sometimes you have no choice in that communal living environment, right? But he had an Atari, and I used to be able to go. We used to go over there, and I'd play Atari all the time. When I was 4 years old, and it's so funny because I talked to my mom about this, talked to my dad about this, and we kind of got into the nuts and bolts of why this is even funnier now than it is to me just thinking about it. So I was 4, and it was early in the morning. And at the time, Dad would go work on weekends. He only had one day off, usually Sunday. Go work weekends, and he would leave early in the morning. He worked at a parts store, and he would open up. So I would get up when he got up to leave, and I'd be up. My mom, at the time of this story, was pregnant with my brother. Oh. So she's sleeping. I eat breakfast. I'm sitting there by myself, alone, nothing to do. Mom's sleeping. Don't want to wake her up. And so I go, I'm going to go next door and play video games. And wrote a note. And I remember the note. I remember writing a note. And in my head, it was, I guarantee in my head, my 4-year-old brain, it was probably, "Dear Mom, I'm going to go next door and play video games," right? Mike.
That's funny.
That's probably what I thought I was writing in my head. In actuality, I'm 4 years old. It was probably scribble, 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 barely legible Mike. And my mom said she remembers this note, and she said, yeah, it was completely illegible. Not even your name was legible.
Fucking hilarious. Oh,
but I left a note, so I go.
You left a note.
So I go next door, and I knock on the door, and we were talking about it, and I can't remember the kid's name. I want to say it was Tony, with a T name, and my mom was like, it might have been a Tony or something like that. And I was like, well, that's not neither here nor there, but I'm trying to give more detail than, just paint the picture. I go knock on the door. He opens the door, and he goes, what are you doing here? I go, oh, can I play games with you? And he's like, yeah, I guess. So he lets me come in. We're playing playing football on fucking Atari with paddles and shit. Old Atari. So it's wood panel, the 1977 one we're talking about in your episode that you remember also. And I don't know how long I'm there. It felt like a long time, but it probably wasn't. And my mom comes, knocks on the door, very angry looking. And I'm like, why does she look angry? I'm thinking in my head. Get home, get yelled at, get in trouble, the whole deal. And I remember my defense was, but I left a note. And mom is pregnant with my brother. And the way this story is like shaking out in my head is it's preschool. So I'm 4, and it's probably around my birthday that year, and my brother is May. So she's like pregnant, like about to pop pregnant. And anybody who's met my mom or knows my mom, you've met my mom. Yeah. She's an awesome person, but she can be very angry very quickly. And then pregnant at the time and all that stuff. So I just I just didn't understand. But I left a note, and I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she was cracking up. She's like, yeah, that was your defense, was that you left a note. And I was like, well, but I did. At least I left a note, right? And she's like, yeah, but come on. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's comedy. I left a note. And then I remember Dad coming home, wondering why I was in trouble. And she tells him the story, and I'm in trouble, but I'm in my room. And I go, I left a note. And then he laughs. Then she gets mad at him, and then we're both in fucking trouble, because that's how it goes. Shit rolls downhill, and that's how you get in trouble. But yeah, I fucking snuck out of the house early in the morning on a Saturday to go play video games with the neighbor in the next apartment over, and got in trouble, even though I left a fucking note. The audacity of my mom.
An illegible note.
But I left it. Yeah, and I left a note was my defense. And
I mean, she knew where to find
I tried. Yeah, and she was saying she figured it out because she said on the note she remembers it saying something about TV or something about games, and was able to make out enough of my incoherent rambling that she figured out where I was. But yeah, I was like telling my wife this story the other day, and I was like, this is gonna be fun to talk about, because I think it's hilarious. Because in my head, I'm like, probably like,
it's like dear fancy cursive writing.
Dear sir and madam, I'm going to venture forth outside and explore and play video games. And blah. Like, it's in my head, it was probably this really nice fucking eloquent note, but in actuality, it was scribbles and possibly a barely legible name, because I was 4.
That's hilarious. Jesus Christ.
So that is my first memory of video games, is not only playing Atari with the kid next door, but sneaking out to go do so and getting in trouble for it.
So that got your interest, and did that kind of like push you to like, hey mom, hey dad, I want a console or something? Shortly after that, so the fun, and I kind of am the same. Me and Alex is the same way with our kids. This is how my mom and dad were. It was they did not change their lifestyle to fit me and my brother. They forced us to, I don't force it, not in a bad way, but forced us to live with their lifestyle. So if it was going out to my favorite Round Table Pizza, because we'd go to Round Table Pizza and they had arcade games, and I saw arcade games. Double Dragon was like the first one that I was like, whoa. And so Double Dragon is a core memory for me. Golf and stuff, like, so all that stuff. It was my parents continued to live their life the way they were living their life. Now they just had
two little shitheads in tow. So it wasn't like, and you know, Dad always had cool shit. He had a sweet fucking remote control car that I remember that would do like 20 miles an hour down the fucking driveway. And it was like just a high end remote control car, really into stuff like that. So, but yeah, man, like
that wasn't your interest, remote control?
No, I mean, yes, but no. Video games is like what? Like, oh man. And then seeing Atari and then playing arcade games. And then shortly after that, or around that same time, was when like the NES had come out and the Sega Master System had come out. And it was probably a year and a half later, maybe, that we got an NES. And it was the big bundle. It was the NES with the cartridge that had Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and Track and Field on it.
Oh, that
came with the zapper, came with the mat, the power pad. That was like, that's my first like, oh, we've got this now, cool. And I remember playing Mario Brothers. Coincidentally, that's also the first time I got in trouble for cussing.
Of course.
So yeah, I've talked about this before. Ben and I, we have different dads, but Ben's dad is my dad. Like, raised me for a good long time. So when I say dad, I'm talking about Ben's dad, but my dad as well. So he, and it's specifically one thing that I remember about watching him play video games is he played video games weird. You know, controller you hold like this, right?
Right.
He would play like this, facing out, D-pad and buttons facing out.
Oh wow!
Like, yeah, and I don't know how or why that was comfortable, but that's how he played. And I remember starting to play games like that and thinking, doesn't it make? I don't know. So for a while, it was like, you know, the people who invert look in video games or don't invert look. I think for a little while I was like, how am I supposed to? What's the right way to do this? And yeah, and it was playing this way, and playing Mario Brothers at 5 years old, being in kindergarten, playing Mario Brothers, 5.5, maybe 6 years old, and playing like this, the thing facing out, and all that, and blah blah blah, and that first pit fell into, and I said, "Shit," and not realizing Dad was standing right there. What? And I was like, nothing. He's like, no. No. And then I was off the game for a while because of that. So
that's fucking funny.
That was the first time I got in trouble for cussing because I said shit when I fell into that first pit.
Do you use soap or anything?
Been there, but not that time.
Oh,
I think he thought it was more funny than anything, but I mean, had to be in trouble. Mom was there too. Had to be in trouble, or else. We used to get in a lot of trouble with my mom, me and Dad. Pretty funny stuff. That's a story for another time. But yeah, we got an NES when I was like in kindergarten.
Wow, that early?
Yeah, pretty early. Again, Dad was like a tech dude. Like, he was into everything that was. Yeah.
That's awesome though. Like, you were able to get it at that.
Yeah, it was like, and it was that big bundle, so it had to be really close to launch.
Had to be expensive as fuck.
Yeah, it had to be really close to launch, or maybe it fell off a truck. I don't know. I'd have to ask him.
It fell off a truck.
I'd have to go deeper in, and I'd rather not.
Funny.
Who knows where it came from? All I know is I had it.
It's funny you mentioned that though, because I could have swore that Sega was your first. Or Sega was the first you bought?
No, well, so we can get into that. Around the same time, kindergarten, maybe first grade, my grandmother worked for McDonnell Douglas Aerospace Technologies. So building fucking airplanes and then doing stuff after that out down here. And every Christmas, they would do like a family, pancake Christmas with Santa. And I can't remember what it was called at the time. Maybe it was Price Club. Still at that point,
I remember a Price Club.
But it was at a Price Club where this Christmas with Santa, or the pancake breakfast with Santa, was. And I used to go with my grandmother everywhere. Total grandma's boy. And so I went with her, and I think it was just me and her that went to this one, because I don't remember anybody else being there, because if anybody else was there, this wouldn't have happened. And they had Sega Master Systems. a big pallet of Sega Master Systems there. And I was like, ooh, that's the Sega. Grandma, that's a Sega. Yeah, don't you have that already? I go, no, we have a Nintendo at home, but I don't have a Sega. And it might have been my cousin Jennifer was with us, because I think she was also like, yeah, Grandma, we don't have a Sega. And so she bought us the Sega Master System and a bunch of games, because they had games there too. And we had a whole collection of stuff. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it is. And then it was because, and yeah, my cousin must have been there with me. So because it was supposed to be a Sega for us, I had to stay at Grandma's house. Neither one of us got to take it home. The Sega stayed at Grandma's house. So, and that's where, that's where I played Hang On and Afterburner. And it's funny because even back then, Sega was like, oh, you like arcade games? Arcade games on the Sega. And then, I never had a Genesis. I completely missed that 16-bit era of gaming. But yeah, man, growing up, I had a Nintendo Entertainment System and a Sega Master System, and I was like the only kid I knew that had both. And we didn't have shit. We didn't have money. We didn't have a lot of things, but we had a Nintendo, and we had a Sega, and we had games.
God, that must have been like so awesome, especially being that young and having both systems like that. Like to me, like at least in my household, like having both systems, like one or the other.
Right.
So you said like it had a lot of arcade games, and arcades probably, like you kind of mentioned it. Going to arcades was
that was the thing.
That was the thing in the 80s and 90s, was going to arcades. How often were you visiting those arcades? Like, did you have? Were you going more before or after you had the system? Like, or pretty much about the same amount.
A little bit both. Like we'd go a little bit before, and like again, it was like golf and stuff, and like Round Table Pizza, and like Stonewood Mall. I have specific memories of Stonewood Mall when it was still a indoor-outdoor mall. I don't know if you're
an indoor-outdoor mall. I don't remember that.
Yeah, and there was a small arcade there, and then when they went full indoor, that's when the bigger arcade came in. But yeah,
that's what I remember, the bigger one.
Yeah, but yeah, we used to go to arcades a lot. Kind of what we would do on the weekends. I mean, it wasn't super expensive, and you like loose change, go play some games, kind of deal. Yeah. And yeah, man, Double Dragon was like, that was my game. I used to play that all the time, and got to the point where I could beat it with $2 in the arcade. $2.
Damn.
Yeah. And that was at a young age, man. Like I think I finally beat it probably when I was like 7 or 8, but got to a point where I would just take less and less quarters to beat Double Dragon.
How many times did you beat it?
Oh, a shitload. A whole shitload.
And none of the other games called out to you? Like
I liked Paperboy because it had the handlebars.
Yeah, that's right. It had the handlebars.
Dad loved Centipede, and so I would try and play Centipede and constantly pinch my hand in the ball, and I hated that game, but I loved that game.
I remember.
Like Arkanoid, like I played a lot of those, but Double Dragon was like, if I had change, Double Dragon. If I had change,
there's just that one.
Double Dragon. Yeah. I guess later in life, probably second, third grade, so it's like 10. Oh no, that's like 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, that era. We were next to a place that had batting cages, but they also had a small arcade inside these batting cages. And I got obsessed with the game Arch Rivals, which was a basketball game where you could punch and kick each other. That also play basketball.
I remember that.
And it was a 4-player unit also, where you could play by yourself. But yeah, it was that was one that I think that's where my love of sports games started, was with that. And after that, like, I know that's 7, 8, 9 years old is like the perfect time for a young kid to start really paying attention to sports anyway. And like, that's for a long time, man, all I played was sports games, and I didn't play a lot of other things. Yes, I had Ninja Turtles. Yes, we played, like Fester's Quest, which was, I never understood. Adam's Family game. Great music.
Oh yeah.
Great music though. But yeah, as far as like arcades, like it was Double Dragon and then Arch Rivals, and then then stuff starts getting more complicated arcade wise
Right.
and really drawing you in. But yeah, those are the two arcade games that I remember playing the most were Arch Rivals and Double
Double
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yep.
Dang. Yeah, I forget Double Dragon was a big one too, next to like Mortal Kombat. Having a console didn't ever stop you from like going to arcades as well. Like you didn't decide,
Oh
well,
no.
since I got a console, might as well just stay here.
No, but I definitely did at a young age make decisions based on like, well, I'm not going to play Double Dragon in the arcade anymore because I have it at home. So why spend money here?
Right.
Um, and even then, I realized like there was things you could do on a console that you couldn't do in arcades. Like, if I were to make a list of my favorite games of all time, which another topic we're probably going to have to do.
Obviously, which I'm sure you have somewhere.
And if I were going to tell you my top 5 favorite games of all time, I think one of them would be Blaster Master on the NES, which is such a good fucking game because it's a 2D when you're in a tank, and then you go into buildings and into levels, and then it's kind of isometric up down. Sick ass music, best music of any video game ever is Blaster Master. I think that and Double Dragon are like tied for number 1. But Blaster Master was like, that was my console. That was the game I played and never beat back in the day. Never able to beat it. And to this day, I've never beat it, which, or the original iteration of it. On Switch, they came out with a Blaster Master Zero, which is a kind of a remake of the first game. And they've changed some things, but it holds up really well. That's a great game. I love that game too. But Blaster Master, it's on the NES Classic on Switch library. So I want to actually sit down and finally beat that game one day. But that was, and it's weird for me to say that one of my favorite games of all time is a game I've never beat. But you gotta remember the time, man. I'm like 7, 8 years old, and it just seems so daunting. And it was like, it was like I won't say it was Metroid before it was Metroid, but that was the first experience I had with a game where it was like, no, you got to go here to get the thing, so then you can go over there, and then you get the thing so you can go over there. Like that was my first experience with that style of game. Was
like a quest of some kind,
right,
in order to get to prestige or move to the next level.
Right. Was Blaster Master. And if y'all out there have a Nintendo Switch and you pay for the online service and you have access to the NES library, do yourself a favor, man. Play Blaster Master. It's such a good game.
So you had both then, Nintendo and Sega. Like, did you choose between the two as far as like what your next console was going to be or what your next phase of gaming was? Like, were you a loyalist towards like one or the other?
I mean, deep down, I want to say Nintendo's home team, but I never really got involved in the whole one's better than the other thing. Because they were such different experiences. Like,
that is true, yeah.
On the Master System, like you had arcade style games like Outrun, which is one of my favorite arcade games, which you could play on the Sega Master System. Afterburner, Hang On, which was the motorcycle one. I love those games in arcades, but could play those at home on the Master System. Then not only is there cartridges, but there's cards for the Master System, and I had some cool games there. I had one called Ghost House, which was super difficult but really fun. Like I still hear that music in my head when I think about Ghost House, and I remember the layouts of the screens and stuff. And that's another one. Like, I know Nintendo has gotten the Genesis stuff on their Nintendo service. I really wish they would go back and get the Sega Master System stuff, because some of that stuff, man, the unlicensed stuff, like the stuff that wasn't, that would be easy to figure out publishing stuff wise, would be so much fun, man. Like Alex Kidd in Miracle World and Zellion, and Sega games like Hang On and Outrun and Afterburner and Ghost House. And so it was funny because like I had Karate Kid on the NES. Terrible game, but I loved it. Convinced myself it was great. On Sega, I had a game called Black Belt, which was a karate game. Not a great game either, but loved it. And I was like, that was right when in my wheelhouse when I was obsessed with martial arts, and having one game here and one game here that are different, but they're both karate games. Let's fucking go. Like, yeah, I was never like a one or the other kind of guy. I got that way a little bit when we'll talk about later on, but yeah, it was just like, I don't know. I was always aware of how lucky I was to have both of these things. And so I never wanted to be like, this one's better than the other kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Going from that, then like going to the arcades, playing those, like having the system at home. What did you end up choosing then for once the next series of consoles came out?
So,
Or did you hold out for like?
it wasn't necessarily a holdout thing. Again, it was, again, we didn't have a lot. We had a TurboGrafx 16 for a short time, but I don't remember playing that very much.
That?
I don't remember playing much of that. My brother has more memories of playing that than I do.
That was a totally different console.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And but other than playing that a little bit, like I completely missed the SNES Genesis era. I didn't have one. I played my NES all the way until I got was N64 first or Sega Saturn? Like Sega Saturn, I think. Yeah, I played my NES all the way until the Sega Saturn came out in '94. Like NES and Master System until the Master System died and couldn't get it fixed. But yeah, dude, I completely missed Genesis and Super Nintendo. Rather than playing Sonic at a friend's house or playing Madden at a friend's house who had SNES. But yeah, I completely missed those, which I'm kind of bummed about. But with Nintendo having that service now, you can play Genesis and
yeah,
SNES
you can play the games you missed out
and
on.
there's not a lot there, but the big ones are. I have gone back in the past and gotten like the Genesis Classics disc on PS2 that's got like Sonic 2, Sonic 3,
yes,
and Columns and all those other great games, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and like all that stuff. So I've gotten a taste of that stuff. But it wasn't like, and I hadn't given up on games either. It was just we didn't have the money. We didn't have the means. Yeah. So I played my NES until the wheels fall off. And then I got and that carried all the way until 1995 when I got a Sega Saturn.
Damn. Yeah. Sega Saturn was definitely one that not a lot of people had, I feel.
Yes, I know.
Which made it very rare to own.
It also made you the outcast when you had the Sega and not the PlayStation. Yeah. Because I didn't have a PlayStation. I didn't play PS1 games until I got a PS2 and was able to play PS1 games on it. But yeah, man, the Sega Saturn was super rare. I had one other friend that had a Sega Saturn, and he very quickly got rid of it. And so I bought a bunch of his games off of him before he got rid of them. But yeah, man, Sega Saturn. And I didn't have that very long either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were the games then that? Well, games in general. Like, what were the games that really drew to you the most growing up?
So this is how I con my way into getting a Sega Saturn.
Okay.
Like, look, if I get a Sega Saturn, I don't have to spend any more money at arcades because you've got Virtua Cop, you've got Virtua Fighter, you've got all these Sega arcade games that I was loving in arcades and playing a lot in arcades that were expensive to play. Virtua Cop was like $1 to play. And they had all gotten really expensive for that Sega arcade hardware. And I was like, not only that, but then they've got these cool games. Like, yeah. And so I was a little salesman myself and was able to get not just the Sega Saturn, but I ended up getting it about a year after it came out, right when the PlayStation was coming out here, because it was a bundle. Prices, they had to drop the price because the new thing was coming out. PlayStation was coming out, and they knew that the PlayStation was putting all of its eggs in the 3D basket, and Sega Saturn was still using a lot of 2D technology, but there was some 3D games in it also. But yeah, and so they dropped the price, and it came with a bundle, and it had Daytona USA, Sega Rally Championship, and I think that was the bundle that I got. And then it came with a demo disc that had like this really fun platformer called Clockwork Knight. It had a baseball demo on it, and I ended up getting the baseball game there. But by that point, I was an arcade guy and a sports guy. So when I got the Sega Saturn, it was
all sports.
Sports games, baseball, and a quarterback club. It was driving games, whether it be Virtua Racing or Daytona USA or Sega Rally Championship or like all these. It was all sports games, sports. So there was a lot of games I missed out on in that era, because I was only playing sports games. And then, yeah, sports games on the Sega Saturn. And I think the only platformer I ever really played was Clockwork Knight when I bought it off of my friend because he was selling all of his shit. Yeah. And it was a platform. It was a really fun platform. I'd like to go back and play it again to see if it's still fun. I actually still have a Sega Saturn in my closet. Do you remember the website Barterbee, where you would buy points, and it was supposed to be eBay, but without the middleman of eBay? And
yes,
Kevin Rose talked about it a lot, and that's how I got into it. And I saw a guy who was selling Sega Saturn games on there, and I was like, oh. And so I messaged him. I was like, hey, you're selling Saturn games. Are you selling any other like games of that era? And he's like, I'm actually just trying to sell off all this stuff because I don't want it anymore. And he's like, I'm selling a Sega Saturn. And so on Barterbee, you would buy currency. You buy points on Barterbee.
That's right. Yeah.
And you could bid up, and it was an auctioning kind of thing also. So theoretically, no money was changing hands between people. You were giving the company money. And so it would be like, okay, I'll give you 50 points for this thing. And
yeah.
It was a really cool concept.
I think I did use that too to get a movie from that.
Yeah.
And I got Pump Up the Volume.
It took a lot of hassle out of the money transaction, the gray area of money transactions. So, and he was like, yeah, I'm trying to sell this Sega Saturn. And I was like, how much? And he's like, $80. And I was like, I'll give you 75. And he goes, okay. And so he's like, so offline through emails, made a transaction for a Sega Saturn. And I was like, now I'm going to go back to your profile and buy all your Sega Saturn games with my Barterbee points that I have. And I ended up, I never sold anything on that site, but I did buy a lot.
I never sold.
Yeah.
I think I only bought that one thing. That was it.
So, and this is before retro game collecting was a thing. And so I got them for really, really cheap. But I still have that Sega Saturn in my closet that I bought off of this guy. And I would love, and I had to change the battery in it, which was very easy to do. But yeah, I still have a Sega Saturn in a closet somewhere at home because I loved that console, man. I loved that console.
I felt like it was a great console that nobody gave a chance.
Yes.
At least in the US.
Right.
Because, across.
It didn't do great anywhere else either.
I mean, didn't Japan? Wasn't it bigger in Japan?
It bigger, but not by much. It was pretty much dead in the water because they put all their eggs in the 2D basket and making 2D games look nicer instead of moving on to 3D, which we had already seen video of or screenshots even of N64 and Mario being 3D and Crash Bandicoot with them fucking coming at you, and they're still trying to do side scrolling stuff, and it just didn't work.
So being a total like mostly sports person, like that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Just because like it just never occurred to me that someone would like, oh yeah, all sports all the time.
Yeah, I was that guy.
Dang. So what was just baseball? Or was it like football?
Football, basketball.
I know racing was definitely one.
Racing,
for you,
like
baseball.
Yeah, it was all sports, hockey, all that. I was into everything. If it was a sport, I would get it and play it. And
so did you just didn't want to play any like story based games, or it was just like it didn't really matter to you
at that point in my life? It just wasn't a big thing because it wasn't being done in a lot of places. Like, and you go back to NES. Yeah, I played Legend of Zelda. Yes, I played games like that back then. But moving forward, when games got more expensive to make and they got bigger, there was arguably less story to video games other than here's a cool game where you do this thing and you do this thing for 4 hours. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, platforming for 4 hours, whatever, but why?
So
Shooting
you wouldn't
things.
really call like Mario a story game?
No, not really.
I can see it that way.
It's a puzzly platformer that has a loose story to it. Like, but again, and I played those games on NES, but I wouldn't call those like. And again, I will say the game that turned me, we'll get to in a little bit, but yeah, for Sega Saturn N64, I got later. Only had the Saturn for like maybe 2 years, and then traded all of my stuff in to get an N64 in like 97, 90, maybe 98. So I had an N64 later than everybody had an N64, but and I had Mario Kart, Mario 64. That's where wrestling games come in. WCW versus NWO World Tour, WCW versus NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy. Like, and I was first place I played Tony Hawk games that were mine. I played Tony Hawk 1 on an N64. My cousin had a PlayStation, played his PlayStation, but yeah, man, I didn't get into games that were doing more than just sports or action until I got into the PS2 era. And when I got to the PS2 era is when I went back and started playing games in the PS1 era that told stories and were able to do things like that. But yeah, dude, for a long time I was fucking.
So then what made you then want to do that then, like go to story games or back?
So when I got a PlayStation 2, one of the first games I got was Silent Hill, the first Silent Hill, which was a PS1 game.
Yeah.
And played that. And I got it because it was really cheap. Now it's like $400 if you have a complete Silent Hill. I have a complete Silent Hill, but it's the greatest hits green label one because that's how I got it.
This is the way you can get it.
Yeah. And I still have that copy. But yeah, I got that because it was $5 and it was a PlayStation game and I played it. And it was one of the very first game I played on my PS2 was Silent Hill, which was a PS1 game from like 3 years earlier. And that was the first game where I was like, oh, whoa. I love horror movies. This game is like a fucking long horror movie. This is awesome. And, that's 2000. I'm fucking 18 at that point. And that's when I first clicked with video games where I was like, oh, games can do more than just be good arcade simulators and sports things. So I missed a lot of stuff because, again, I think if I would have been in that 16-bit generation, I would have played games like, Earthbound or Final Fantasy that had stories or, just other games that had deep character building and stories. But like I said, I completely missed that generation of gaming.
Dang. So what made you?
What made me switch?
Yeah. Cause like it's like me and you, like we were talking earlier, like we're kind of in that same spot as far as whether 64 or PlayStation. Yeah.
So here's what made me switch.
Because the GameCube was also really huge too. Eventually.
Yeah. I hated discs. I hated the idea of games being on discs, which was why I ended up getting rid of the Saturn and getting the N64. I was like, I hate games being on discs. I fucking hate it. And then what made me make the choice between PS2 and GameCube was that Nintendo fucking turned on me and went to discs. Like, fuck you guys. I'm done with you now. Like that's the closest I got to being like Nintendo guy switching over. And then more games that I wanted to play were on PlayStation. Again, still in arcades, still loving arcades. Playing all the DDR games. I could play those at home. I can get a mat and plug it into my PlayStation. I can play all those at home. Time Crisis. Big Time Crisis guy. I could get that, play that at home. Crazy Taxi. I can play that at home now. So like it really was, the PS2 was like my arcade machine. And then I got lucky and found a great game like Silent Hill that really was like, oh. And then the first time I played Metal Gear Solid was on PS2, but playing the PS1 disc that I borrowed from a friend. And I was like, oh. Wow, this is awesome. And then playing a little bit of Symphony of the Night on PS2, but the PS1 disc, obviously. Like, had played a lot of games going backwards when I got a PS2, which I thought was really fun because it was different. Like normally you're playing it as they come out and having these conversations with people as they're coming out, but like that's kind of not. I've never had a game console at launch. The closest I got was probably that NES, but I was fucking 6 years old and it wasn't mine. It was the house's, you know? But we'd always talk about Mike Tyson's Punch Out at school, and we would talk about, you know, whatever other games we were playing at school. So like that was the closest I was to getting something at launch, was that initial Master System NES run. Then after that, like I never got things at launch. I got the Saturn.
To this day, you don't get things at launch either.
The only thing I've gotten at launch, which was the PlayStation Vita.
Oh.
I got that on launch day because, again, I'm older now. I'm like 20s at that point. Shit, almost 30 when the PS Vita came out. And like people were like, oh, what do you want for your birthday? I was like, just give me money because I want to get a PlayStation Vita. What's that? It's a handheld console. It's going to be fucking amazing. It's going to be so good. It's like console gaming in your head. I was that guy. I was in my 20s. I was that late 20s, and I was that guy. This is revolutionary. This is going to be the best thing ever. And don't get it twisted. PlayStation Vita is the fucking best handheld ever. Best. Period. But it died a quick death because of support didn't have enough support. Didn't sell enough units. But that's the only console I've ever gotten at launch. Like of mine, that was mine, was that. And it was because on Christmas that year, people gave me money. Birthday that year, people gave me money. The couple weeks after my birthday that year, the Vita came out and I got it. And I didn't have to pay any money up front because I have awesome friends and family in my life that when they asked me what I wanted for Christmas and I told them money or GameStop gift cards so I can put towards to buy this thing, everybody did. And I even had enough left over to buy a game. So I didn't even have to pay for it on my own, which was fucking cool. But yeah, that's the only thing I've ever gotten at launch. But other than that, like, I didn't get a PS3 at launch. I got it about 6 months later. I didn't get a PS2 at launch. I got it a year later when they did the Gran Turismo 3 bundle. And so that's where my love of driving games really started, was with that.
Because driving games, I know that's like your thing.
Yeah,
like you love driving games. I was gonna ask you, like, what was that first driving game that got you into?
So
that genre?
I played a little bit of Gran Turismo 1 and 2 at my cousin's on his PlayStation. And I just didn't have a PlayStation of my own. So I was like, oh, these are cool. I'll just play them when I'm here. But then when that bundle came out with Gran Turismo 3 in it, I was like, I got to get that. And that was the one that was like, where I realized, yeah, who needs an arcade racing game? There's nothing better than driving this Mazda Miata around the Nürburgring. You know, like, and I'm still like that, man. I have Gran Turismo 7 on my console right now. And I literally drove a Nissan 300ZX around Nürburgring the other day because I love driving production cars around the tracks on that game. But yeah, it was Gran Turismo 3, man. Like passing those license tests, getting silver on never able to get gold on all of them, but I got silver and better on all the tests. So the easier ones, I had some golds, but silver medals on all the driving tests. Hell yeah, let's go. Controller, never got a wheel. I always wanted to get a wheel. I always looked at the wheels, but I'm like, I can't justify spending $300 on this wheel, even though it would probably be better. But yeah, I still have that trouble to this day when I look. Ooh, man, it's only $249. Like maybe I'll just control it.
That'd be like your dream thing to have.
Oh, a full rig setup.
Just
yeah.
like a rig with a
hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I mean, you know, all of this is starting to make a lot more sense too, because like you said, your first was the Sega Master System, and then when you started talking about this in the arcades, like it just made sense because yeah, Genesis was on a lot of the. Or Sega Genesis was on a lot of the arcades. Like you'd see that logo everywhere.
Sega, yeah, it was that was that arcade hardware, that Sega arcade hardware was everywhere in arcades. Like it wasn't the only one. Obviously, there was other stuff too. But a lot of the stuff I played were Sega games in the arcades, which was crazy.
So how did it feel going back then, knowing because like you said you had to go back and play all these different games that you didn't play before. Like,
yeah.
Like how did that feel as far as like catching up and talking about it with friends?
So
now that you've played it,
luckily it wasn't too far removed from when they came out. So I think that if I had never played a game like Silent Hill or Metal Gear Solid and went back and played them today with all the advancements in video games, I would probably say they fucking suck because control wise they were difficult and they were a handful to figure out.
Yeah.
But I wasn't too far removed from them when I did play them, so it was definitely easier to grasp onto, and they weren't outdated yet. But it was really cool, man, to like, because a lot of my friends were Resident Evil kids, and I wasn't. I never played Resident Evil games until way later. I was a Silent Hill guy. Like, that was it for me. I was like, nah, fuck Resident Evil. Who needs that shit?
I was the same way.
But you know, you go back and you play them older and you realize, oh, these games are good too. They're different. They're just different styles of horror games. Like, I feel like Resident Evil plays a lot with jump scares, where I feel like Silent Hill 1 and 2 and 3 played a lot with the build up to those scares, and with the radio.
Mind games.
Like, you could turn your radio off and turn the light off on your flashlight, but that's arguably scarier than knowing what's coming at you, you know? So like, it was just a different style of horror game. And I appreciate the Resident Evil series for what it is 100%, but home team is Silent Hill, man. Like, yeah. And so it was cool to go back and Konami, man, Silent Hill, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, all of the Dance Dance Revolution games were published by Konami out here. So like, I had all those on PS2. Like, so it was cool going back and playing games and being able to talk about them with people who had already played them, and then be like, oh, you like Silent Hill? You should play Siren. This game Siren coming out on PS2. You need to play that. And I played that. I was like, oh shit. And then like telling my buddy, you told me about Siren, you need to play Fatal Frame because holy shit. And like, it was like, that's where really the camaraderie and social aspect of video games really started to like flourish with me, was when I started playing games that weren't just wrestling games or sports games. But yeah, man, like, it was really cool to go back and play those games and then be able to have those conversations and have that discourse. And, you know, like, you like that, you should try this. And you like that, oh, you should try this. Like, yeah, it that's where it really took off for me. And I was already like 18, 19, 20 almost at that point. Like, but that's really where it clicked for me how important video games were to my life. Like, I had them all growing up. But
so that was like the pivotal moment where you thought, like, this is it. This is my thing. This is my hobby moving forward.
Right. There's 3 things in my life I'm passionate about, where I will spiritly debate, let's say, because I don't ever really like to use the term argue or fight, but I will spiritly debate professional wrestling, music, and video games. Like, that's... And I like movies as well. And we've done a lot of movie shows where I talk about my history with movies and why certain movies are so important to me. But like, those 3, professional wrestling, music, and video games, are the ones that, if you get into a conversation with me about them, be prepared. Yes. Because that's just like, and I don't make games. I'm not a musician. I dabbled in professional wrestling. I don't have deep, like, technical know-how for the games and the music thing. I do a little bit for wrestling, but those are things that I will spiritly debate with people constantly.
So now that you were caught up, so to speak,
yeah,
were you excited about, now that you had your own PlayStation 2, what called out to you like, oh shit, like, this game looks cool, like, I want to start playing this?
Well, again, it's a series, but the trailer for Silent Hill 2, seeing that first trailer for Silent Hill 2 and the music and hearing that, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go.
I remember when that shit came out too. I was at a friend's house, and her brother, like, I started hearing the Silent Hill music. I'm like, are you, like, what's that? He's like, well, I'm watching the trailer for Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
So
that's early internet, man.
Early internet, yeah.
It's in 2000s, but like, people don't understand how fucking archaic the internet was until about a decade ago. Like, yeah, we had Napster and LimeWire, and we were pirating shit, but even like up to like 2010, high-speed internet was not everywhere. And
yeah, it wasn't.
I don't think people realize, like, they just assume like from 2000s forward, internet's been fucking tits, right? No, internet was bad for a long time. Arguably, it's bad now too, but for completely different reasons.
Businesses.
Yeah. But yeah, man, internet was pretty archaic until like even 2010. Like, That's when high speed started to permeate everywhere.
It's
That's
like
when it became easier
cable
to get it.
DSL.
Yeah. I mean, and you had that in 2004, 2005, 2006, but like
Yeah.
it wasn't everywhere, man. It wasn't everywhere. And even now it's
Satellite.
yeah. But yeah, that was
Silent Hill 2.
Silent Hill 2, man, was like I remember seeing the trailer that they posted on GameSpot after E3 that year. I'm like, oh, yeah.
So when it came to games, like those were day ones for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3. Again, any DDR game because I had an amazing girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife, and she bought me a metal DDR mat, like a high dollar, like $200 metal DDR mat that I could plug into my PlayStation 2 and play all my fucking DDR games. And so any DDR game that was coming out, that was PS2 was also when I really fell in love with storytelling in video games. And I love the Prince of Persia games because not only those were cool stories, they were great mechanically. Prince of Persia Sands of Time trilogy is so good.
Never played those.
Really?
I played the first one. I don't get it.
Wow. Okay. All right. We won't murder you for that today. But yeah, that was that's when I really started to expand and play different types of games.
Moving from the sports games.
Yeah, getting onto PS2 and that's and it was funny because it was PS1 games that made me realize what I had been missing. Like I said with Silent Hill and Metal Gear. But that said, I didn't play another Metal Gear until 4. I didn't play 2 or 3. Still to this day, I haven't played 2 or 3.
Right, you're the one that haven't played those.
Yeah, I played 1, never played 2, never played 3. Loved 4. 5 is a mixed bag, but yeah, I've never
finished 5.
I've never played 2 and 3. There's apparently a remake of 3 that's supposed to be coming out soon.
I heard, yeah.
Which is so weird. Just remake the whole trilogy. Like, what are you doing?
So you didn't go back and play 2 or 3?
No, I didn't. Because by that point on PS2, I was playing. I was deeper into other things. I was playing Silent Hill and I was playing Prince of Persia, and then the wrestling games that did come out on the PS2 were fantastic. Some would say the best era of professional wrestling video games were on PS2. I'm one of those people that think those games were the best. I still played sports games. It just wasn't all consuming. So I would play the NHL game or the MLB game, or I was never a Madden guy, which is funny. I always played.
I was going to ask you that, like Madden or like Blitz or something.
Blitz was one of my favorites, but that's an arcade style football game. I was an NFL 2K guy. Like I was a Sega Sports NFL game. Yeah.
Makes sense.
NFL Quarterback Club was the first one I really on N64 was like the first football game where I was very meticulous about my team and my rosters and trades and playing the game. Like, but yeah, and that wasn't a Madden game. That was an Acclaim game. But yeah, NFL Quarterback Club and then NFL 2K, I always thought were better games than Madden. I played Madden. It was just never the game I bought. NBA, I kind of fell off pretty quickly though. I played NBA 2K on a friend's Dreamcast, and I was like, at the time, I was like, oh my God, this is like watching the game on TV. And if you go back and look at it now, it still looks pretty good, but you're like, how the fuck did you ever think or mistake this for a TV version of the game? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't played an NBA game in a long, long time. The last NBA game I played was NBA Street on that era, PS2,
Streets,
NBA and GameCube era. But yeah. And that was also the time where those consoles, that era, PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, all specialized in their own thing.
Yeah.
So I was not the only time, because now I have all 3 right now too, but that was where I had every console. Like I had I had Master System and NES, and then one at a time up until I got the PS2. Then I got a GameCube, and I got an original Xbox also. So I had all 3 of those. So, and they all specialized in their own thing. Like graphically, you'd go to Xbox. Sound, PlayStation. And for whatever reason, even with those stupid little discs, the GameCube always had the best frame rates. I played Burnout for the first time on GameCube. and it had the better frame rate. And I was like, and that's when I really started to get into things like that. You know, being 19,
starting
20
to look
years
at
old,
the details,
starting to pay attention to that. Yeah, where is this game gonna play better? Where's it gonna look better? Where's it gonna sound better? So Tony Hawk games, I always played on PlayStation. Those are always be PlayStation games to me. Is Tony Hawk. I own all of them on Xbox right now. Like that's how I have them right now. But they're PlayStation games, you know. Sports games. I played a lot of sports games on the original Xbox because they looked better. Not by much, but you know they did.
So you mentioned Xbox. You had the PlayStation 2. You said you bought like what made you get the Xbox in, or at least transition to the Xbox?
So
because Xbox would be the first Xbox during the PlayStation 2 came out,
right?
Yeah,
and it came out a year later or 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, like, what made you do that jump? Because those are like two complete. Like, this was Microsoft's first introduction, as PlayStation's already been around now because they they have the 2, and then Nintendo, of course, the old boy. Halo.
And I waited and I got the cool green Master Chief.
So you saw the trailer and that's what you wanted.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I need to play that. And I just waited and waited and waited, and I ended up getting an original Xbox when they put that Halo bundle out about a year, 9 months before Halo 2 came out. So it came with Halo 1, and it was the green Xbox with the green controller. So yeah, it was Halo, man.
Because Halo was already
out.
Xbox was already out before Halo, right?
I think it was launch title.
It was launch title. It was a launch title. Yeah. Okay. I felt like I remember playing or hearing it come out like senior year, like 2001. Right.
I think it was 2001. Might have been 2002. Yeah. They just recently did the 20-year anniversary thing for Xbox, and yeah, that was the launch.
I could be remembering it wrong too. But so Halo was the one that pulls you.
Yeah. And it wasn't even the first Halo, if I'm being honest. It was that year at E3 they announced that Halo 2, and they showed the Halo 2 trailer. And it's that whole trailer where they show the first area of the game, and then Master Chief deactivates, then reactivates that bomb and grabs onto it, and Cortana goes, "What are you gonna do?" He goes, "We're gonna give it back." And then you fly out of the ship with the bomb. I'm like, yes, let's fucking go. And I had no care for Xbox at that time, but when I saw the Halo 2 trailer, I was like, hell yeah, that is my shit right there. And then right after that, they had announced that they're doing the not anniversary, but the Halo Edition Xbox. And I was like, let's get that shit. So yeah, that's what made me switch over, was seeing the Halo 2 trailer and then wanting to play Halo. And then, because I was aware of Halo before, but it wasn't like...
Yeah, because it was out for a while.
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah. So it was just that trailer.
The Halo 2 trailer, man. So good.
I remember seeing the trailer for it too. Like, I remember Halo. I never just bought into it, I guess, because I was such a PlayStation fanboy.
Yeah. And there was nothing like that on PlayStation.
Yeah, there wasn't.
There was nothing like that on Nintendo. I guess there's stuff like that on PC at the time, but I wasn't a PC gamer, so like there was nothing like that at the time with Halo.
I mean, PlayStation tried with what was it, Gears of War?
Nope, that's Xbox. That was 360. Where they tried
with Killzone. Killzone, there you go.
And Killzone's not a bad game. That first Killzone, it's not a bad game at all. It's not Halo. Killzone 2, fantastic game. But yeah.
See, so yeah, I bring that up because like I always saw you. I mean, yeah, Sega for sure. Nintendo thing surprised me a bit.
Yeah.
But Xbox, I know, like I don't know. I always just thought you were more Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, I was for a little bit, man. Like that time when we first met, was around when I got my Xbox 360, and I was playing a lot of original Xbox still at that point. I got my 360, and Halo 3, and playing Gears of War. Which, playing with somebody, that game is fantastic. Playing by yourself, that game is not fun. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not saying it's not a good game. It's just not a fun game alone. That game was obviously geared towards the co-op aspect of it, and it's great for that. But yeah, so yeah, I was heavy into the Xbox ecosystem until my 360 took a shit. Which, fuck, that's a story, man.
No, yeah, I've definitely remember you telling that one. But now with the Xbox 360, and then we got the PlayStation 3.
A year later, yeah. That's when the
Oh, it was a
PS3
year later.
Yeah, 05 was Xbox 360, 06 was PlayStation 3, but I didn't get a PS3 until like middle of 07.
Right, that's what
Yeah.
I was trying to get to now. So, was it because of what happened to you with your Xbox that you moved to back to PlayStation, or were you always eventually gonna?
I was always eventually going to get a PlayStation, and I had already gotten a PlayStation when the Xbox decided to die. But that was what really solidified it for me, was having that experience. And you know, I've told the story a little bit briefly here before, probably on the old podcast, but
This is the old podcast,
so I had an Xbox 360. Project Gotham Racing 3 or 4 was coming out, so I downloaded the demo and I played that, and I downloaded the demo for the SmackDown game that was coming out that year also. Played those demos, and then we left to go eat dinner. So I turn off the Xbox, go eat dinner, come back, turn on the Xbox, starts to boot up, boop, red ring. And I was like, no. And I was like, at this point we knew it was bound to happen, because they were having 30% failure rate off the line, and they knew what was wrong with them, but they didn't. And they had already said, if you get a red ring, we'll replace it. It's on us. Our bad. They lost like $1 billion replacing Xboxes, man. And I was like, oh no, but all right. So I contacted Microsoft. They didn't even ask for proof of purchase or receipt or anything, because they were so like, we know, okay, it was red ring. Cool. We're going to send you the cardboard coffin. You put your Xbox in it, send it back to us. We'll fix it and send it back. But all they were doing was sending refurbished ones that they had already gotten red ring. But refurbished ones weren't fixing the problem. So they were going to red ring again, which is why they ended up losing so much fucking money, because they were just sending out consoles that were going to end up breaking again. So that happened, and I was like, oh, it was a bummer. Halo 3 had just come out. I hadn't finished Halo 3 yet. I just gotten Skate. I hadn't finished that yet. I hadn't finished BioShock yet. Like, I had all these big games like ready, and then it died. And I was like, fuck, okay. So then they send me a replacement. Cool. Put my hard drive on, turn it on, signs into my Xbox account, no problems. The demos are obviously still on the hard drive. I put in Skate, played some more Skate. Everything was fine. Turned it off, went to play the next day. Red ring on the replacement Xbox. Okay. Contacted Microsoft. We're sorry about that. Don't worry. We'll send you another box. You send it back, and then we'll replace it. Blah, 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 blah. So then they sent me the third box. And I was like, cool. Put my hard drive on. Cannot recognize this storage device. And I was like, okay. So now what? So then I call Microsoft and get on the phone this time with somebody. And I was like, it's not recognizing the hard drive. And they're like, okay, we'll send you a box. Send us the hard drive. We'll check it out. They check it out, contact me. The hard drive is fried from the last red ring. So it completely fried the hard drive. And I was like, and they're like, we'll send you a new one. I was like, okay, cool. What about my saves? Those are gone. I was like, okay, send me the new one. Send me the hard drive. I sold my Xbox to my brother-in-law, and he played it, and it lasted for a long time. But I sold him the games he wanted and the Xbox, and I traded the other games in at Game Crazy that was down the street, and ended up having to start. If I'm going to fucking start fresh, fuck Xbox, I'm out. Got those games, except for Halo, because I can't get that on PlayStation. Then I got all the PlayStation 3 versions of those games and played them. But yeah, I was done. Completely done with Xbox after that until recently. Yeah. But that era, that 360 PS3 era, man, so many good games. Like, again, Skate, Halo 3.
Yeah,
that generation. Yeah. So it was like Skate, Halo 3, BioShock, Gears of War if you're playing with somebody. Yeah. Like,
that was a good time.
Yeah, and then Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, and Last of Us, and Warhawk, which was one of my favorite games on PS3. Like, and it doesn't get enough talk. People don't talk about Warhawk enough. Put some respect on Warhawk's name. It's a great video game. But yeah, man, that whole era had some of my favorite gaming memories. Like playing Uncharted 2 with you and Bryce, and Burnout Paradise, playing that
Burnout.
with you and Bryce, and random people, because I had to play with randoms to get all those trophies. That was my first. That was my first platinum trophy. Was Burnout Paradise. Because I wasn't a big achievement or trophy guy until then.
Yeah. So you because Xbox, they had prestiges, right? I think that's what they call them.
Achievements.
Achievements. Yeah. I was saying prestige, but yeah, like that didn't ever get you as far as like trying to get all the achievements.
One game got me, but then I, when the Xbox died, it was the original game, original Crackdown. I don't know if anybody's ever played that. Not a lot of people did. It's a fun game. But there was trophies for that, which were like, achievements where it was like, and it was like play through the game, and then it's like, jump from the highest building in the game, and like you had to have enough orbs to be able to jump high enough to get onto this building, collect all of the agility orbs, and get to the highest point of the map. And like, so that was the first game where I was like, looking up, how do I do this? And so I think that game is kind of what started my obsession with like achievements and trophies. But I'm not obsessed to the point where I feel like I have to get all of them and everything, It's similar to you. It's like, if this is a game I like, then I'm going to go for it. But nowadays it's more like, is this even fucking attainable, or does this have some stupid online trophy that I'm never going to do? So I'll look up the trophy list now, or now that I have an Xbox again, now I'll look up achievement lists and be like, all right, this is totally gettable. We'll go for it, But yeah, for a little while, I almost became that guy that was buying 99-cent games for platinum trophies. But I never went down that. I'm so glad I didn't, because like there are so many of those. Yeah, and it's just that boom, that pop of getting the trophy. Yeah, so good. But there's a major problem in the PlayStation Store right now with games where it's like, here's a $2 game and you can get a platinum trophy just to pad your platinum trophy stat. And it's like, there was one game that I almost bought to do that on PS3, and it was that stupid My Name is Mayo game where you just have to click like 250 times and you get all the trophies on the platinum. And I was like, it's only 99 cents. But you got any more than platinum? But I never did it. And I'm so glad I never did it, because now I can look at my platinum trophies and be like, yeah, I fucking earned that Burnout Paradise trophy.
Many times.
I earned that Knockout City trophy. I earned that Rocket League trophy. And I don't care what the rarity on a platinum trophy is, but I will say I take a little bit of pride when I see that less than 1% of people who have played the game have that platinum trophy. Less than 1% of people have that Knockout City platinum, and that game's going away real soon.
I heard they're like shutting down.
Yeah. And I have that on PS4 and PS5. And there was a point where I contemplated downloading it on Xbox and getting the 1,000 points on Xbox. And then they announced that they're shutting it down. And a couple of those trophies are really time consuming. And I don't know if I want to try and bust that out before June. Like I theoretically have the time. So I might do it and get that triple platinum, so to speak. But yeah. But yeah, Burnout, man, that was the one for sure that got my obsession going on PlayStation.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because we all put in hours on that game too together.
Yeah, because that game didn't have trophies at launch when it first came out. It got them in an update later, and it got them in an update, but it didn't like nowadays. Well, I don't even say nowadays because it's a thing that trophies are in every game. But I remember there was some games later on that were able to read your save and see what you had accomplished in the game and pop your trophies like without a problem. Burnout didn't do that. Like I had to start a fresh playthrough and delete. Like I deleted my save and played Burnout all over again to get those trophies. But yeah, man, like, and that's I'm proud of that platinum on both consoles. Yeah, real proud of that one, just because it took time, and it's a game I love. In a franchise I love. So like, I'm really proud of that Burnout one.
I mean, because I feel like we're kind of current as far as about gaming.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Always been console. PC ever considered PC?
No. No, because PC I know is a money sink for me, because it's a lot easier to buy the console and not have to worry about it for 5 or 6 years and then buy another console. I know the way I am that even if my PC was fine, but a new graphics card came out, I'd be like, yeah, any more of them graphics cards, Joe Rogan? Like, I would definitely be that guy, you know? Like, I try not to be that way, like newest, latest, best, but I can be like that in some ways. And I think if PC gaming was a thing, that, and I know the PlayStation, everybody talks about how big of a behemoth the PS5 is. I don't have space for a fucking PC tower. I'm not going to hook it up to a TV. I'm going to want to have a monitor that's geared for gaming and not just a TV. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. It's like $3,000 to get a monitor I would want and the PC the way I would want it. And then I would need a place to put it and use it. And like, space is a limited currency right now.
I mean, there are ways around space.
Yeah, but
and as far as the monitor goes, I mean, you could just get a nice OLED if you really want it.
But I'm saying, like, it's and that's expensive.
But yeah, I get that. It is expensive though.
And I would get caught up, but then again, I don't like mouse and keyboard. I played a lot of so my wife is also into games, but she played PC stuff. Like, she loves The Sims, but she played Unreal Tournament. She played Halo, but played it on PC after it came out on PC. Like, so I played a lot of Unreal Tournament 2004 on my wife's computer and had a lot of fun playing it because I would play with I'd play with my buddy Lawrence and our other buddies Jason and Joe. We'd all play together, and it was fun. But I just could never get used to the mouse and keyboard and be viable. And like, people say, oh, just, you know, you stick with it and you get it. And I played a lot of Unreal Tournament. And if I wasn't going to get it playing Unreal Tournament, I'm never going to get it. You know, it's never going to be for me. So if I did spend all that money on a fucking gaming PC, I would just be plugging my Xbox controller or my PS5 controller into it to use. Like, and at that point, what's the point? I've got a nice TV. Like, my PlayStation puts out 4K, and if the game renders at 4K, my TV can do it. Xbox Series S does 2K rendering and not 4K, so I can do that there too. Like, and at that point, what's the point of having a gaming PC if I can just play everything on my two consoles already?
Yeah. And
there was never a game that was only on PC where I was like, oh, I need to spend $3,000 on a fucking gaming PC to play that. Like, you would never, there was nothing. Because even like the Half-Lives ended up coming to consoles. So it's like, I could just play those here.
So something we both, I think, have in common right now is I think we have every system that's currently out.
Yeah.
Xbox,
yeah.
PlayStation 5, Switch.
Stinky Switch. Yeah.
Those three, right?
Yeah. That's it.
Do you think you're more likely now to, like, 5 years from now, if something, PlayStation
6,
7, whatever, like same with Xbox, you think you'll get the same systems like that? Or would you be more, because like we're at a time right now where the systems are pretty much
the same. Right.
Like do you see yourself like doing that? Like getting every one of them?
I guess it depends. I hate considering the Switch the current gen console. I know it's our current gen Nintendo. Yeah, but it's also barely a PS3 360 graphically and power wise. Like, it's a 2 generations old hardware inside that thing. Which, and again, I don't want to knock the Switch. I love my Switch. I have a Switch. We all have them. Nintendo's gotten a lot of money out of my family. Don't even trip. But I will sit here and talk about the shortcomings of the Nintendo Switch, and there is a lot of them. But that's a show for another time. The reason I have all 3 now was kind of out of just happenstance. So I had a Switch. I got a Switch the year it came out, but around Christmas time, that of 2017. So that's when I got that. And I got that because I really wanted to play Mario Odyssey. And I really wanted to see what the fuss about Zelda Breath of the Wild was. Different stories for different times. The Xbox Series S, this is a cool story too. We were fucking deep into pandemic, summer.
I feel like I had to play in this too.
Summer of 2021. We have our friends down the street whose dogs we used to walk and all that. And we were walking the dogs, and I looked at my phone because I got a notification from Amazon that, oh, hey, Xbox Series S is in stock. And I was like, oh man, Halo's coming out later this year. We go, hey babe, should I get this Xbox? Can I get this Xbox? She's like, are you gonna play it? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play it. And she's like, well, yeah, if you're gonna play it. And I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. Well, we're gonna walk the dogs. We're gonna go get dinner. We'll get home. If it's still there, maybe I'll get it. She goes, okay, yeah, all right. So we go home. We do that. We get home about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I look, still in stock. I was like, they're still in stock. And she's like, just if you're gonna get it, just get it. And I was like, how about this? I'm gonna sleep on it. I'm gonna be responsible about this. You know, again, deep in pandemic. Right. I'm gonna sleep on it. If it's still in stock in the morning after we get the kids to school, I'll get one. So we get up in the morning, get the kids up, get them to school, went and got breakfast, came home, looked at my phone. I go, holy shit, it's been almost 24 hours and they're still in stock. Because at this point, these consoles were not staying in stock anywhere. This summer of 2021, August of 2021.
Yeah, consoles were like limited everywhere.
Yeah. So again, this is 6 months after they came out, essentially. So she goes, get it. And I go, all right. So I got it. Got it. Played Forza Horizon as soon as I got it. And was like, wow, this is amazing. Play Halo when that came out. And like, I was playing games there. But in 2021, so that was like, I'm not going to be able to get a PlayStation. I'll just get the Xbox and I'll play the games I want to play there. And if I end up getting a PlayStation 5 down the line, which I still do want, fine. And then later that year, December of that year, my wife was like, hey, I did this account. I started a PlayStation account to see if they would send the invite to the PlayStation Direct. I think this is fake. Is this the right thing? And she sent me the email. I was like, oh no, that's the right thing. She goes, all right, I got you a PlayStation. And I was like, fuck, cool, man, hell yeah. So it was just kind of like by happenstance and by chance that I have all three. I'm not using the Xbox as much now as I would like to be, but we have two of them in our fucking house because my son wanted one, so he got one.
Oh.
Because he wanted to play Paladins with me and Knockout City, and the stinky Switch sucks at playing those games. The frame rate's terrible, his lag is terrible. So, and like, I was like, yeah, he's a good kid. We'll get him an Xbox. So we got him an Xbox Series S for Christmas. And, he hustled me, man. We're talking about earlier on your episode and earlier on this one about being a salesman, right?
Yeah.
This kid was like, Dad, if I get an Xbox, I could play Borderlands with you because Borderlands 3 has crossplay now. I was like, yeah, it does have crossplay, and I have it on PlayStation. We could totally play together. And we could play Knockout City together, and we could play this and that together, and it'll be fun. I was like, yeah, buddy, it would be fun. And I told him, I'm getting him a fucking Xbox for Christmas. So I got him an Xbox. You know how many times he's played Borderlands with me?
0.
Twice. Twice. He's played Knockout City with me a little bit more. But yeah. I got fucking hustled. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now, man. I've got all three. I enjoy all three to certain varying degrees. I think Switch is long in the tooth. I think we need something new. And I think we need something more cutting edge technology wise. I say this, but I'm probably going to be wrong. I don't think the novelty of the Switch is going to work again. I think and even if it costs more, fine, but it has to be, and I can't even say on par with the Xbox and PlayStation, but it has to be closer to those. It can't be as underpowered as it was when it came out. Super underpowered. But Nintendo has a way of making that work for them. I think if they want to continue to have the third-party support, if they want to continue to have people want to play on that platform, it's got to be technologically better than PS4. It's got to be closer to what PS5 and Xbox are. That's just me. I could be wrong. And I'm probably going to be wrong because we don't know yet at this point of recording what they're doing.
Yeah. Anything else you want to have in the back of your mind that you want to bring out?
No, I think we naturally got everywhere I wanted to go. I liked your question about, do I see myself getting all three in the future if there's all three in the future? And it's like, I don't know, man. That
is a hard question to answer because technology is ever changing.
Yeah.
And I think really as far, and maybe this is a side tangent, but I think really as far as it goes when it comes to getting all three is what games are going to be on there.
There's got to be something for me.
There
to
has
want
to be
there.
something
Yeah.
on it in order to pull me on it.
And Halo did it this time, but I don't think I would get another Xbox to play another Halo.
Like honestly, I
You know?
feel like because I had built my PC before getting the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, or the Xbox.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I got like I think I just wanted the latest and greatest. I think I
Yeah.
kind of fell into that.
Yeah, it happens.
Happens
to the best.
But yeah, it happens to all of us. But at the same time, like the only thing I've ever played on it was Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Last of Us. Like I haven't really played anything else on it.
That's the way it goes sometimes, man. Like I was super gung-ho about the Xbox, and I played a lot of Forza Horizon. I played a good amount of Halo. I never finished the story, but I played a lot of Halo Online. I played a lot of
Oh, you didn't finish the Halo game?
Nah, not the story.
Did you not get into it, or is it too open world?
No, it's not even that I didn't get into it. Like it checked a lot of the boxes of what I was looking for at the time in a game, because I'm a big fan of the Far Cry games, which are kind of like open world and take over this base and then you go do the story stuff, and like so it was checking a lot of those boxes, but I think the overarching story wasn't compelling enough to pull me through, which kind of bummed me out because you know how big of a Halo guy I am. I still plan on finishing it. I definitely do. It's still on the hard drive. I haven't deleted it off the hard drive or anything. So
yeah, I still have it on mine too.
But yeah, I definitely need to. But again, I've just because of having all three, I've really been like screwing myself over with games lately. Because like again, Horizon Forbidden West, I wanted to play and kind of mainline that. But then I was playing Knockout City with Bryce and Wolf a lot. So and Dan. So I was like not playing as much Horizon as I wanted to. And then I just recently got Gotham Knights, and I've been playing that, and I really like that game, but I'm kind of just slowly chipping away at it. I want to play more Hi-Fi Rush on the Xbox, but I'm just slowly chipping away. I got Metroid Prime Remastered because I never played Metroid Prime on GameCube, so this is like almost a brand new experience for me. I'm just slowly chipping at that, and it's like I need to focus, and I need to finish this and then get to that and then get to that.
Yeah.
And then I said earlier about Game Pass being like the greatest value as a consumer there is, and it is. But then I want to go download a fucking 15-year-old game and play. I want to go play Assassin's Creed 2 again. And I was like, knock it the fuck off, Mike. Just finish the newer games that you need to finish, and then you can go back to that stuff later. But like recently, I wanted to play Grand Theft Auto 4 again for some unknown reason, even though it's not my favorite Grand Theft Auto game. It's probably my least favorite Grand Theft Auto game, but I wanted to play it again for some reason. Guess what? It was $15 on Xbox 360 Digital Marketplace. So what did Mike do? Because he's a fucking idiot. He bought Grand Theft Auto 4 for $15 and started playing it and played it every night and put about 8 hours into that game. And then, I got to go play Gotham Knights. So now I've got a playthrough of Grand Theft Auto 4 just sitting there, with my Gotham Knights playthrough just sitting there, with my Hi-Fi Rush playthrough that's just sitting there, and my Metroid Prime playthrough that isn't going anywhere. And so I need to focus. And I think that is my biggest issue right now. And I'm getting to that point kind of where you were when you were like, it's too much.
It's a lot, yeah.
Because, fuck, man, Horizon Forbidden West DLC is going to be coming out really fucking soon that I want to play. Dead Island 2 is finally coming out. 2? They're calling it 2? I think they're calling it 2 or 3. Whatever. The Dead Island, new Dead Island game is finally coming out. And I saw gameplay of it, and I was like, man, if this is as fun to play as it looks, this game's going to be okay. And like, Suicide Squad's coming out soon, and I want to play that. And there's all sorts of stuff coming out that I want to play, and I feel overwhelmed by games right now, and it's my own doing, because it's not just new shit I'm playing old shit on the Xbox, I'm playing old shit on my Switch, I'm playing old shit on PlayStation. And it's like I really want to just get onto these consoles and delete everything off the hard drive except for the one fucking game I need to focus on and beat that, and then slowly start doing that again.
That's a good challenge. Delete everything and then pick the one you want.
I'm over here chasing the Tiny Tina Wonderlands platinum, and I'm getting even closer now. I only got 2 trophies left, and I'm gonna get that fucking platinum. Shit. Borderlands 3. I still play Borderlands 3 for some god unknown reason, other than I fucking love that game, and I just want to keep playing and being in that world. I have like over 1,000 hours on that video game. counting the PS4 version and the PS5 version, easily over 1,000 hours into Borderlands 3.
Damn.
Yeah, I got problems, man. Gran Turismo 7 just came out with a new patch. I've been playing the new track. I love it. I can't wait for. There's supposed to be some big anniversary patch for that because it's a 1-year anniversary of that game coming out. So I really do need to just, again, I've said it 100 times and I'm going to say it again. I just need to buckle down and focus on one thing at a time. And it's hard to do because it's all so good right now. It's all so good.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I can do is prioritize my gaming as far as what to play. Like 1 week, I think I'm just going to focus on this. 1 week, I'm going to focus on that. I think with streaming too, like when I decided to play part 2, like I'm just going to stream that. I'm not going to stream anything else. When I'm finished that, then I'm going to play something else. And then I played Destiny, and then I went back to Last of Us.
And that's the other problem. We talked about this on our 2022 wrap-up episode. I really enjoy streaming on Twitch, but none of these story-driven games, I don't want to stream those because I want to be focused on that thing. So
I wouldn't stream it if I haven't played it yet.
I got problems, man.
Yeah, because I never streamed my first playthrough of 2 because now I want to focus on this.
Vinny Caravello, who used to work at Giant Bomb, and now him, Brad and Alex also used to be at Giant Bomb. They have their own thing now called Nextlander, and it's a video game centric podcast and stuff. And Vinny he used to always say this at the beginning of the Giant Bomb East Coast podcast, Giant Beastcast. And it's true, man. He always say there's never been a better time to be playing video games. And there's never been a better time to be into video games than right now. And as long as we can keep moving forward in this timeline of video games and continue to say that, then I think video games are going to be just fine.
We definitely got to do this again as far as interview wise, like back and forth.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. You guys let us know if you like it or not.
The one thing that I didn't go over, and I know we're long already, so I didn't want to drag it out more, was my history with handheld consoles. And
I forgot. That's what I forgot.
So, but that's okay though. We can come back and do that, And maybe that won't be a 2-hour episode. Maybe that'll only be about an hour. But that would be.
We've played our fair share of handheld consoles. That could be an episode.
Yeah.
But thanks everyone again for watching, for subscribing and liking and all that stuff. We truly appreciate it. We do these in batches, but at the same time, we definitely want to know what your input is, what you want to see, guests, whatever it may be. Let us know, and feel free to subscribe if you want. No big deal. We don't care. But we just thank you for watching.
Yep.
Also, don't forget to follow the wonderful
Nigel Bravo, aka Stoat Krow Komedy. It's Crow and Comedy, both with K's, on Bandcamp for this, and we always thank him for this awesome music. He also streams on Twitch, and he's a fun guy to watch, and he's very interactive in his chats. So check him out, man. It's also Stoat Krow Komedy on Twitch.
Yes, and we're also on Twitch too, so feel free to follow us over there. Whenever we're not here, we're on there.
Yeah.
Take it easy, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.